hier goeie klippe. Toe ek vir hom gesê nee, ek en my kind, ons weet hier klippe se naam Kawa Diamante. Derde vraag, boere my gevra, goed my broer, jy het hier klippe, ek kan nie jou twak gee, wat ek jou verkoop by hier diamant. Toe ek gesê ja, is hy hastig om te rook, ek het nie rook he. Jy het rook, gee my baie sakke van die rook, ek jou diamant gee. Sit ek keer, hy my twaksak gee, ek het die diamant gee. Daarom ek gewonder, nee, my diamant is baie my broer. Sit hem hier. Toe die boer vir my gesê, nee, jy stry baie. Die man, hy was Englishman. Hy oorsee gekom om te my gekry, om te die diamant, kijk, gaan verkoop my toe. Daarom ons begin om te probleme baklei. Voor ons het gebaklei by die hande. Hy nooit gesikkel. Ons gebaklei met 'n pyleboog. Niks wat hy gemaak het. En nou, hy beplan gemaak het. Hy wapen gemaak om te my skiet by. As hy dan veer, hy skiet my. Pyleboog kan kom met hom.
Well, I think the one interesting thing growing up in South Africa was the way we've been taught history in South Africa, which of course has been very biased. We were taught about the Bushman Wars, and when I asked what happened to the Bushmen, no one could tell me. You know, there were all these gaps in our history. And then some time after that, after I think I left school, I delved into my own personal history, of my family, and I made the starting discovery that a very famous commandant, it's the leader of a commando who lived at the time in the Northern Cape, the end of the 1700s, person with the surname of Pienaar, actually boasted that he killed 600 Bushmen, which of course was very typical of the time, of that era. And those days the Bushmen were declared as vermin. And it was actually the duty of the farmers to go out on commando and to kill them, and to capture their children as servants. And that would have been like a fourth generation ancestor of mine. And I always thought, well, there's so much we don't know, and the Bushman became, in a sense, the symbol I was striving for, something I was trying to capture and understand. Because we had this sort of vague resonances of a history, but no one really told us about it. And I really thought, well, maybe it's time to understand what happened in the past. And maybe by understanding what happened in the past, we may understand the present better as well.
For the colonizers, the bush people were nothing more than thieves who stole their cattle. But who was it that had stolen the land on which the bush people had once hunted and lived?
When I first came to this site, which it was in about 1960 or 59, the farmer who was then at Beersheba, Gilson, he had told me he had paintings on the farm, pointed me in this direction, put my pack on, walked down, and when I arrived here and saw these paintings, I was completely blown out of my mind, because I had never before seen what is in effect the end of the Bushmen. It's a painting by the Bushmen of their own end. The Boers came to Natal and had fairly free reign without any bureaucratic government regulations being imposed on them during that period, 1836 to 1845. and there are quite a number of records of Boer commandos against the Bushmen during that period. After 1845, the British government became more entrenched, and you then had British soldiers being involved in the commandos. Apparently what's happened is that the Bushmen and the people that helped them do the raiding had raided cattle and horses and driven them, I suppose, up this very secluded valley, and they were attacked by what, if you look at the detail, is undeniably a Boer commando. But the very interesting factor is that there's, with all this realism, there's one figure that is quite curiously different. This figure has long, feathery-like projections from the head, is carrying 2 knobbed sticks, an enormous penis, an enormous genital organ. This is a spirit person, a power figure that is apparently controlling what's going on here. And this person is bleeding from the nose as well, as San people do when they do their ritual dance, when they're calling on power to help them cure disease, to help them in times of difficulty, to help them in trouble. So here you have a spiritual specialist, either a real spiritual specialist or a spiritual specialist who's here overseeing what is happening at this particular battle. Is it? Okay, yes, I'm sure. You should know the worst. It's a row of hunters, all with these interlaced legs, superimposed on an earlier eland. What I would like to draw attention to here is this lovely double-running hunters, and I wondered if you'd have any comment on hunting techniques or hunting cooperation.
Well, the hunters that I've spoken to about just that have talked about what a lifelong bond comes between hunters who have hunted together for a long time, because they have learned through many hunts to trust each other, to communicate without words, and to work as a synchronous unit together. And this appears to be something which borders on a sacred relationship.
I remember there's some other German tourists. They went in my garden. They see that it's a good idea by establishing a medicinal garden. What they
Elliot,
said,
like Mabi, is a Sangoma, a traditional Zulu healer. He takes us to the Game Pass shelter. Here, the bush people had created a very special panel to the animal with which they felt most connected, the eland antelope, like an altar in the temple of nature. I remember what a bushman in the 19th century had said. Where there are elands in droves like cattle, there is our God.
Elliot, when you look at the paintings here next to you, you see it's dominated by eland, beautiful eland.
Yeah, sure.
Now, are eland also important to Zulu healers like yourself?
Fans, they are very, very important, because I can tell you, especially on my side and even to my colleagues, we have seen that while we are making some motis medicine, like a traditional medicine, most of the eland parts do work, especially like the gallbladder and the galljuice plays a big part there when we are making, want to call it inyazangoma.
And who taught healers the special qualities of eland?
To get that knowledge, it's easier because, as you know, that a traditional healer is a spiritual person. Whatever comes, it comes with the spirit. Dreams, visions. Sometimes when a Sangoma or traditional is sleeping, he usually have some dreams or vision, or the ancestors telling him or her that to use this medicinal species or to come into contact or to help the people, he or she must get some animal parts from the eland. Whatever I'm doing, I actually hear to my spirit, to my ancestors. So my ancestors are the biggest spirit that tells a person how to mix these things. If the ancestors sees that the Bushmen were the strongest nation, sometimes the ancestors wants to go and grab the power from the Bushman side or from the Bushman caves. The ancestors can drive you straight to the Bushman cave like that to collect the spirit, to do a sacrificing, not to scratch it, but to pray and do a nice of sacrificing so that you can collect the spirit and become more powerful.
Suddenly, unexpectedly, a herd of eland appear, as if they wanted to give us a sign. Here, the eminent South African archaeologist David Lewis Williams found what he referred to as another kind of Rosetta Stone, a panel that is a key to decoding the deeper meaning of Bushman rock art.
Well, I first traced this particular group of paintings in 1961. I saw this very close identification of extraordinarily elongated human figures with an eland as being possibly associated with specialists who controlled and influenced the movements of game. That's the way I saw it then.
This eland, it's very, very clearly portrayed that its neck is down, its face is looking directly at us, it has a buckled leg, and it has hair standing on end all the way up its neck and down its backside and under the belly. And he likens this to some of the physical sensations of trance that people use for healing. You can see in the first figure that's holding onto the eland's tail, you see the crossed legs mimicking the crossed legs of the eland. That figure also has hair standing on end. The next figure you see in a very characteristic bending over posture of trance, with one arm back, one arm forward, and an enormous angle at the belly. The third figure over quite clearly is likened to an eland. You see horns, you see the same colors used on the body of the man and the eland, and quite clearly these three figures are figures who are actually in transformation right now.
Right.
They are in a state of trance and they are on their way to becoming something else.
Our next goal is the Tsodilo Hills in Botswana. In all of southern Africa today, there are about 100,000 bush people, and half of them live in Botswana. We fly over the Okavango Delta to the legendary Tsodilo Hills, which rise up like islands out of the sea of sand of the Kalahari Desert. Here too, the bush people have been painting rock art for hundreds, if not thousands of years. But in contrast to the Drakensberg and the Brandberg, here finally we meet a larger number of bush people. These bush people belong to the ethnic group of the Shotwanzi. Their connection to the Tsodilo Hills goes back a long way. Yet today, they can no longer live from hunting and gathering as their forefathers once did. Who knows whether these Shotwanzi still feel some relationship to the nearby rock paintings of their ancestors, and whether the paintings still mean something to them.
singaqa kushaka esuka nxusa kunqa ekuka de qashi ojun chasi de nwa he ka a to ko jun ha gwa ngore he chotsa ka he chotsa ka si ka khona ye chosu kunqa ya khwe ka inqa ya ko ka inqa khwe ma ngwe ka asika ukukwe oka ka ugeko mgaku onqumsi ka qhowa konke kanti ukaqhongqa ka onqumsi ka qhowa konke de kan esa du no sikatsi ka khona akwa ka onqola ka khona ka du ka nga du ha de man de ka onqumsi de ka onqola ka tsi khona kun ka oduwa ka
Nishitetsa ngwagi senkuku ngumsa he nagang te kai usi te ajuri kore na usaka
usata kan hago bangare kolika no to kan ga am so ga banga han kolika
te agangare ge kolika
changa ko oduwa junga a oduwa ka to du kan hago are ge kolika kala na ngara
are kona kwinki
ko
kana oh are question ka chingya ganga du katwa ko ge ka ko
ko chingya ganga duwa bayana du se we se tsama hungu juwe kam o sinye ha sinye chi jwa sinye adu masisa dogo sisi ka gia ka thome maga ku qana kaga obo
I must say, coming to Tsodilo, for me, was a dream come true. I honestly didn't believe I'd ever get here, but having arrived here, the power of the place is quite staggering, and so you begin to get an idea of the tremendous importance, the focal point that these rocks have in this flat landscape. It really is an oasis. It's a nucleus of power, in very much the same way, I think, as Ayers Rock is in Australia. This whole concept of what is material, what is real, what is actual, and what is spiritual is so enmeshed in both peoples, both Australian Aboriginal and the Indigenous people here. You know, we separate these aspects off so readily in our culture and our educational background. Our upbringing is to put things